Well, folks, it's Friday, and that does mean that it is Feisty Friday at 5 with Greta B. Greta is particularly feisty tonight after moderating a sex and longevity panel all afternoon with leading research practitioners. Tonight's show is still geared toward finding your last great love later in life, but she may surprise and even shock with some of what she learned today. It seems that the world of sex and love are even more intertwined than we ever thought. This is Andy over here in the Bloomer Boomer studio, and get out your pencil. You're going to want to take notes tonight. Greta B in a moment. And October, by the way, is going to be a huge month, just like September was, with a full season of new shows. Get familiar with this awesome Bloomer Boomer platform to launch you into full and meaningful light after 55. And now, Feisty Friday at 5 with Greta B.
Good sex, bad sex, so-so sex, no sex. That's pretty much the gamut, if you really want to be honest, if we're going to be real. And tonight we're getting real. And you're right, Andy, I am on a fire. I moderated a panel of some of the top researchers in the world. We had Dr. Thierry Hertog from Brussels, Belgium on. We had Dr. Amy Killen on. We had Dave Asprey, who founded Bulletproof Coffee and has now become a biohacker extraordinaire for longevity. He had some tips that are wild. So we're going to get to all that stuff, but I think the thing that I want to address first, because this is what I was really going to talk about a lot, which is the whole sex during COVID thing, but I've kind of gotten on fire about these hacks for having a better sex drive, sex life, better sex function, better orgasms. Anybody interested in that out there? So we're going to run that gamut. I think what I want to do first, and I'm promising you guys next week, I'm going to have a teleprompter, so I'm not going to be looking off like strange wild eyes looking for my content. I'm going to upgrade. I tell you though, I have one little factoid that I think is really fun, and I want to share that up front. It's my burn for the week, the black burn. So, I have this ongoing thing about the boomers versus the millennials, because I'm okay boomer and they're millennials and whatever. I think it's interesting that they did a study and they found that 17% of millennials checked their cell phone during sex. Okay. I'm just saying, like, how aggravated you get at them when you're sitting at dinner with them and they're on the phone the whole time? Well, think how aggravated it is to be buck naked with somebody underneath or below you or on top or whatever you're doing, and they're looking at their cell phone. I don't know. I'd find that a little dispiriting. Anyway, that's my little boomer fact of the week. Are you living up to your sex potential? Probably not during COVID. I have some facts here, and I'm going to be looking. I'm not going cross-eyed. I'm looking at my factoids. There's kind of two camps in this whole sex during COVID thing. And not to take any of the COVID stuff lightly, particularly in light of what's going on right now. It's very serious stuff. We've been living through it. We know it. We're living it. We're in it. But let's talk about the sex part of it. So there's either people who are self-isolating alone. So you're not having sex with a partner anyway during that. You're isolated. You're by yourself. So that's obviously less sex than you're used to having, presumably. Or how about you're so cooped up with someone for so long that the sound of them drawing a breath is enough to make you go completely crazy, let alone the thought of getting naked with them. And that's happened a lot. They've done studies on that. So I'm going to read a couple of factoids here. Libidos are down across the board. People are wanting to cuddle and snack. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But people found that we know that when people are stressed, when they have anxiety, their sex drive goes down, their sex performance goes down. So in particular, a sex therapist who's based in Austin, Texas, said for plenty of people, or Heather McPherson, for plenty of people, when they get stressed out, sex is the farthest thing from their mind. Now, one of the few studies into the relationship between stress and libido, blah, 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 blah. It was in the International Journal of Gynecology and Obstetrics. There was a huge earthquake in Wenchuan, China in 2008. And they studied the effect on the reproductive health, the sexual libido aspects, all of that, of 170 women. And they found that there was a marked decrease in women's satisfaction with their sex life. And in fact, before the quake, 55% of the women surveyed said they were satisfied, and that dropped to 21% afterward. They had less sex afterwards too. Before the quake, women said they were having sex at least once a week, and in the week immediately after, 89% said they'd not had sex at all. So, and in following months, the sex was still low. So what we know is that stress affects it. So if any of you are sitting out there feeling weird that your sex life has kind of gone down the tubes, we'll call it good reason for that. So as we talk about finding the great love of your life, everybody's fond now of saying, you're going to be my last great love. Well, that's a great sentiment, wonderful goal, love it. But the things that get in the way in the normal world are huge. And now when you talk about a time when we have COVID going on with the things I just talked about, the odds get slimmer and slimmer, so you've got the guys here and you've got the women here. And I always think it's funny that the guys are all saying, I want to meet a fabulous woman. And the women are saying, I want to meet a fabulous guy. And you think at some point those would intersect. How do you make a little heart there? They'd intersect. See that? I notice I'm wearing red. I'm attracting love. You would think that would happen, but it's not happening. And it hasn't happened for a lot of people. Once they reach middle age and beyond, people are frustrated. Like, is it over? It was so great when I was whatever. We all have that, that one or two sexual experiences that we've got in the little golden box, that little golden box. Oh, that time. I have one of those. Come on, tell the truth. You do too. But so as we got further and further away from that wonderful thing that we've stored in that golden box, those wonderful memories, we get dispirited, we get dissuaded, we start thinking it's not going to happen again, but it can happen again. I'm going to tell you a personal story, somewhat personal, tangentially personal. So my dad had gotten very, very picky at about age, he and my mother were long divorced and my dad was long single, and he was so picky. Wonderful women were crazy about him. My dad was a good-looking guy up until the end. At 90, he'd walk in a room, and I had girlfriends who had crushes on him. But he was so picky, and I'd say, Dad, that is a wonderful, she's good-looking, she's crazy about you. And he'd be like, no. This went on for decades. At age 75, he fell madly in love with the love of his life. No disrespect to my mom, but he and Shirley were crazy about each other. They got 15 amazing years. So I think that that's maybe the greatest gift my dad. He gave me a lot of great gifts. I love you, Dad. And he's not with us anymore. But I think the greatest gift he gave me was to show me that at that stage of life, he could be crazy in love with somebody. That's monumental. And it wasn't just a platonic friendly thing. It was like, we didn't want to hear anymore about how great the what was. It's like, he's my dad. I don't want to know he ever did it. Maybe one time to have me. So it's possible. And we all know maybe one person who's had that happen late in life. So the obstacles are, you get picky, you've been burned, COVID's happening, the world has shut down. Online dating is, can we call it a nightmare? There are some weird people on there of both sexes. So it becomes hard. One of the things, though, that also stands in the way, other than the world having come to an end, other than having this jaded perspective, is that there are physical things that are happening. And we all know the physical things. We all know the marionette lines, those things right there. Oh, God, I'm looking at them right now. Oh, God help us. The things that happen physically But the things that happen physiologically on a sexual level are equally as radical. You just don't see them. The skin and stuff, what goes on with the guy's junk and with the woman's yin yang, it ages. And one of the big points of this panel that I moderated today was, how do you address the physiological changes that happen that preclude great sex, that preclude you having the desire, that preclude men having great erections, that preclude women having fantastic orgasms or wanting to have an orgasm. So you got COVID, you got your bias. Now, don't forget, we're always, and I want to do a shout out to my friend Claude, whom I hope is watching, because we were talking today and he said, you know, one of the things, Greta, you talk about on the show is this thing about the vantage point we have at this stage of life. And I am so grateful for that vantage point. We've got all these years and we've got this vantage point where we can see stuff for what it is. I wouldn't trade that for anything. So from our beautiful boomer vantage point, the bad news is sometimes from that vantage point, we're loaded with baggage. The things that have gone wrong, the people who weren't who we thought they were, or were great, but for that time, but not for now. So there's a lot going on. And there are some tricks. There are some surprising tricks. There are some hormonal things. So once you're out there again in the world, and it will happen, knocking on the nearest wood, I could make a joke because we're talking about sex, but I won't. There are some things you can do to get ready for your re-entry into the sexual world, because let's face it, when you're sexed up and juicy, let's be serious, women, you know this. When you're madly having the hots for a guy, you draw men like flies. They can see it, smell it, everything on you. They know you're hot. And we want to have that attractiveness. And for men, feeling insecure because of the things that go on physically for men, which I frankly think is worse for women. It doesn't show as much, but it's bad because when they can't perform, everybody knows it. And women, we all know that you've faked it once or twice, so you can scooch by. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the scientific hacks, some of the super stuff I was exposed to today and that I've known about a little bit out of my involvement with this stuff. And by the way, the name of the conference that I was hosting the panel for is RADFest, RAADFEST. It's still going on this weekend. You can still sign up. And then you have access to the archives and you can see this panel. And I'm telling you, they could sell it as a pay-per-view. In fact, I'm going to suggest that to them. Maybe I'll get credit for it. But so we're going to talk about some of that stuff. I'm looking at my little handy clock. I think we're in the realm. Alan, correct me if I'm wrong. Are we at about that break place?
Yeah, we're okay, Greta. If you we can go for the next segment with some questions. Unless you want to wrap up on that, and then we'll get to the questions.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to do questions yet. I got some.
Okay.
I want to tell them about Scream Cream.
Okay.
I want to tell them about sex toys that a woman puts in her yin yang and she can play video games with to get better with her muscles down there.
And then we got time.
Well, let's do that then. We're going to go to, well, let's talk about, I'm going to throw some terminology out there. Okay. So the things that are out there at the high-end sexual enhancement clinics, and they exist just like anything does, are things like shockwave energy for the vagina, vaginal lasers. They go in with red light therapy. They go in with lasers. And just like the skin on your face is not quite where it was when you were 21, other places get a little lax. The penis pump. Now, back in the 70s, people were making jokes about penis pumps. It was something that some guys supposedly had on their stomach and you pumped it and they got an erection. Well, this is not that penis pump. One of the keys to longevity for men is, believe it or not, having nocturnal erections. Like, you know how teenage guys, young guys joke about, or we've seen it, we know them, they wake up with an erection. And apparently that's a really healthy thing. That needs to happen on a daily basis. Now, I know some of you guys just went, oh my God, I'm not worthy. I knew it. I'm less than, I'm whatever. But there are penis pumps, and it's something you do just like you do your bicep curls, or you go in your sauna. You do 15 to 20 minutes a day with your penis pump, and it allows you to continue to have your nocturnal erections. So you might want to look into that with a doctor. It's got to be a savvy guy. This isn't going to be a guy who's one of these naysayer. You know, most doctors, what they're not up on, they're down on. So you want to go to a smart guy, a longevity guy, and just inquire about penis pumps. A lot of people have TENS units for pain or for various functions, for rehab, whatever. There are TENS units for the vagina that help it do stuff. There is, we'll call it a toy. It's a game. It's inserted into the vagina, and you do Kegels, you know, the little exercises that keep the pelvic floor tight and toned and all that good stuff. Very important as you get older for women. And with this, I'm competitive. So when I heard about this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this. I'm going to be the queen of the vagina video games. I really think there's a future for me in that. I don't know. I'll train. Anyway, it's inserted into the vagina, and squeezing activates I guess it's the joystick, and you play video games and you score and you get better. And as your muscles tighten up, you're the queen of the video games. So didn't know about that. I'm going to bet you didn't either. There's a unit called the VFit Plus. I think you can probably Google that. The VFit Plus is a type of light therapy that is inserted and tones things up in the yin yang. You like my technical terms, the junk for men and yin yang for women, just so we know what we're talking about. Let's talk about hormones. So most people know a little bit about balancing their hormones. They go to their doctor and they get their thyroid and they get their progesterone or their whatever. So there's a couple of hormones I want to clue you guys into, and I want you to talk to your doctor seriously about getting these. One is oxytocin. Now, a lot of people have heard of that. It's what makes mothers bond with their babies. It's the love and loyalty, the happy hormone. You can do a nasal spray. You can do a cream. Good doctors, compounding pharmacies, ask them for an oxytocin something, because what oxytocin does, and there are before and after pictures of people who went on oxytocin, in particular women, and what they look like several weeks later. It's amazing. It literally, if you've been feeling, and you have valid reasons, but if you've been feeling depressed, not itchy, edgy, grumpy, not liking people so much, you're low on oxytocin. You need some oxytocin, and you can get that, and it makes you soft and cuddly. It makes you relatable. It makes you, when you're with your partner, you bond with them. You want to be with them. You have an affinity for them. Even if you've been locked up with them for 7 months, suddenly you see them in a new light. You start taking your clothes off. And another one is MSH, and that is melanocyte stimulating hormone. And that's like melanin type thing. What MSH does, it's kind of the flip side of oxytocin, in that it makes everything better, improves sexual function for men and women. It's the animal, as opposed to oxytocin's cuddly bear. Catch this, guys. MSH makes your erections have more volume and be harder. I don't know anybody that would argue with that. So it's very important, and it's also very key for women. So it's a wonderful hormone. It's a little hard to get now. It's one of those things that the FDA has said is right now it's on their kind of sketchy list, whatever, but write it down and stay after it and get you some MSH if you can, because it is a key ingredient to the whole going out into the world and finding that perfect partner at whatever age. Hydrolyzed collagen. You know, everything is now collagen creamers. We all see the collagen this, the collagen that. You want to have hydrolyzed. Collagen has a half-life of 7 years. So in 7 years, if you take hydrolyzed collagen every day, half the collagen in your body will be replaced. That's your skin, that's your hair, that's your yin yang for women, that's your junk for men. And there are ways that if you actually use some of these light therapies, red light therapies, laser therapies, do a little extra juju, that you can speed that up possibly, according to Dave Asprey, the bulletproof guy. So you want to start doing that. It's a long-term play, but what the heck, if you know, I don't know, if I knew that I do know in 7 years, if I could have my collagen, half of it be like when I was 20, I'm in for that. And by the way, I love the collagen creamers. It tastes good. So, and it does get into the body. You know, a lot of this stuff, you're just peeing it out. This stuff gets into the body. There's something called, and again, you're going to talk to your doctor, you're going to talk to your whatever, and I'll get more info. And in fact, I promise to have a little more info next week for how to get some of this stuff, but it's called Scream Cream. And it's women take it and they apply it very, what's the word I'm looking for? They targeted on the yin yang in a certain spot, and it makes everything crazy good. So Scream Cream. In fact, today online, I was saying I'm going to come up with a t-shirt that says Scream Cream made me a Scream Queen. Don't steal it. I know where you live. I'll come after you. So you've got to think, you know, a lot of us are taking all the right stuff. We're doing vitamins. We're so healthy. We're working out the perfect way. But I'm going to bet that your oxytocin, your MSH, penis pumps are lacking. So this is all stuff to up your game. We're biohacking. We're literally going in and hacking our biology. This was formerly heretofore, what's that for a word? Impossible. It's possible now. It's just like all the things that technologically we didn't have. Imagine thinking about a cell phone 25, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe I had that big thing. So this is where it's going, guys. You want to have that great love of your life late in life. You want to be crazier about this person than you've ever been about anyone. Men, do you want to have like better sex and perform better than ever before? It's possible. It's not over. We're at our vantage point. We have biopacks. We're looking out on the horizon, and it looks good because we know that things can be way more better than they are now. They can be better than they were for some people in their 20s. That's cool. People didn't have that back in the 50s. So it's exciting stuff. And again, the big point here in this point of this show tonight is it is possible to find that great person later in life. There's evidence of it in the world. And biologically speaking, you can be better than you were when you thought you were at your best, when you have that memory that you put into the golden box. Let's put a new memory in the golden box. Let's blow that box up. Again, I could make a joke, but I won't because I'm such a demure person. All right, Alan, I think I've crossed a few lines here.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's good information, and I appreciate it. And the joystick one. You know, I've been playing video games now for a little over a year. I'll remember. I mean, won't forget about that. About that prescription.
Yeah, well, and every time you touch that joystick, you're going to think about some woman squeezing and making it move. It's going to. You won't forget that image.
Hey, listen. Will you stick around here for a couple of questions? All right.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Greta B will be right back. And Bloomer Boomer is an awesome platform for launching you toward full and meaningful life after 55. All the shows are live. The hosts are here for your questions. If you prefer to binge watch, you can do that. Just visit their webpage here at bloomerboomer.com. And you can also sign up for member benefits and all that sort of good stuff. Let's get back now to Greta B with your some of your frequently asked questions. Well, let's see. We have something here from Stephanie. Now, she has a little smiley face here, and she says, which may explain her question, I guess. She's wondering what the link might be between sex and longevity, and that's, you know, where the happy face is, you know, more sex, longer life, and then she writes, ha ha.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the big message out of today's panel was it's a key part of, you know, we have all these pieces of this puzzle as we age, all these pieces that have to fit together to make the puzzle, which is you at a later age. And sexuality is a huge part of it. And the things that can go wrong because you're not having a sex life are many and varied. And let's just talk about one aspect, and that's the stress aspect. I mean, stress kills, stress shortens your telomere, stress does everything bad. We know that. People that are having a good sex life are ameliorating that stress by having sex. There's a strong link across too many fronts to even talk about between longevity and sex.
Another one. This is from Ralph, and he's turned 70, and he's talking about himself. He says that some folks have issues that prevent from having, traditional sex. He says he's trying to figure out a way to find what's best for him.
Well, and I don't know what his particular issues are, but we've talked about a few things here, which is like arousal, erections, that kind of thing. Those can be remedied. With proper hormone replacement, seeing a good doctor that can tweak the hormones, tweak the testosterone. A key, we didn't even get to testosterone because that's kind of a mainstream thing, but testosterone is a key part of this puzzle for men and women. So I don't know exactly what his issues are, but I'm going to say that his idea that he can have traditional sex is probably, he might be mistaken, and that's something to talk to a doctor that's kind of accomplished in this realm about.
Well, very good. Good advice. And can we come back and you tell us a little bit about next week, next show?
Oh, because I'm pissed.
Oh, good. Well, hang in one moment. And remember to sign up on the website to receive benefits like free books and downloads, a newsletter, and private invitations to some upcoming virtual community events. And let's get back with Greta B.
Yeah, so next week, I tell you, I've been looking at this whole concept of advertising and this whole concept of attention sucking and how everything in today's society is designed to suck our, well, let's start the millennials, 17% of them checking their phone while they're having sex. That's an attention sucker. So there are so many, and some of them are so subtle, and some of them are so huge and glaring. So next week is going to be about thinking outside of your brain, because they got your brain. They're in your brain. They're in your head. You got to think outside of your head. And that requires a few little tricks, which are hard at first, but they get easier. I think I talked last week, and I'm not sure, just a quick thing, an example of the pervasiveness and the insidiousness and the, I'm going to say almost like the evil in a certain way of advertising. There's a ad campaign in Seoul, South Korea, and it was for Dunkin' Donuts. And what it was is that on the buses, they had the scent of fresh, during rush hour, when it would be time for people to be thinking in the morning about their coffee break, the scent of Dunkin' Donuts coffee came wafting through the bus just as it was beginning to pull up to a Dunkin' Donuts. And then an announcement came on: we're at your Dunkin' Donuts, get off and get your coffee. So they were assaulting the olfactory sense. They had you all juiced up and primed for the coffee. And they actually won an award for something like experiential advertising or ambient advertising, something like that. So they're coming after you through your nose, through your eyes, through your mouth, you name it. And the attention suckers are making us all less connected to each other, less connected to who we really are. And they're pulling us away from our authentic selves in a way that I'm not sure, well, I am sure, is not necessarily good.
Well, we will hear more about that. And as always, Greta B., we thank you so much for being here on Feisty Friday at 5.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you for being here and for watching. And just remember that Greta B. will be back here the same day, same time next week. And you can find out more on Facebook, YouTube, and bloomerboomer.com. If you like this, please like us on Facebook and follow us. Meantime, get to know Bloomer Boomer and the web platform, Springboard to a Meaningful Life After